Okay. Um, I fucking hate Windows. Oh, I hate Windows so much. Okay, there we go. And then properties. There. Oh, jeez. Anyway. Yeah, there we go. This is going to be one of them days. I can already tell. So anyway, I might as well start over. Good morning, everyone. Hope everybody had a wonderful day yesterday. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. Oh, man, this is going to be a great day so far. So a little bit late because I had an unscheduled restart of Windows, apparently for audio issues, which it just decided to carry over. But yesterday we started working on this massive chamber, getting it drilled out. Last night it finished up this second layer, so I went ahead and just lowered it, started working on the next layer down. And of course it'll take a while because I have it moving extremely slow, but that's just to be on the safe side and make sure it gets done correctly. Other than that, nothing, no big news. We did some Space Engineers 2 yesterday as well. Was messing around with working on a ship, which was entertaining to say the least, because we found an interesting bug. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about with the bug that we found was that before I started doing that build yesterday, I disabled automatic rotation. Now, I wonder if that has any effect on the issue that we were having with mirroring. So essentially what was happening was that I was working on a ship, and it has a main body or fuselage. Then it's supposed to have a wing on either side that ends with a nacelle on the outside of that wing. I was working on the left side and was going to mirror it over to the right side. And every time I attempted to do that, it would not attach the wing in mirrored mode. It would take that wing and rotate it and then slap it on the side, but it wouldn't mirror it. Even though the initial blueprint projection showed that it was mirrored. And we spent quite a lot of time messing around with it, trying to get it just right. I love watching all these rocks go rolling down the hill. So, that was yesterday. Today, we will hopefully get the rest of this drilled out. Looks like I could just about start. Not yet. Getting there. Also, where the hell? There we go. Yeah, I need a new headset. I need a new microphone. It's basically the gist of it. This one ain't cutting it no more. Okay. Hey, Turnip. How you doing? And I've got my coffee right here. Hydration, not a problem. All right, well, that's doing its thing. Also, okay, good. The refineries are at least using some of it. You know what? I know I'm going to have to do this. Let's move you over here. Put those two there. We'll start with this one because it's going to be closer. And we'll go ahead and get these done up. Oh, damn it. That's okay. I need all that crap anyway. Ooh, how am I doing on cobalt? Ooh, yeah. We need to go get some more cobalt. I'm about out. Which, fortunately, is this way. What is this? It's one of the, okay, yeah. I'm not even going to worry about it. Because it might explode while I'm over there, and I really don't want to get exploded. Oh. That's the cobalt boulder. That's all right. This will work too. What the hell do I... Oh, nothing but... That's okay. This is going to take a second. I've got to empty a whole bunch of stone first. Apparently, it's been using the ship as another storage container, so to speak. Which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. Fortunately, this empties pretty quick. If I were to do another iteration of this mining ship or this style of mining ship, I would very definitely add 2 of these setups, which I'm using the sort of large conveyor sorter, which is flat. It's a 1x3x3. Or I should say, yeah, 1x3x3. But that and then the connector combination, it jettisons so much stone so quickly compared to the previous versions where I've used the small connectors. So I definitely like this setup a bit more. Let's try and get as much cobalt as we can out of this. Wait for it to jettison the stone. Almost there. Blah, blah, blah. That is one of the problems. It is a little too efficient sometimes at collecting stuff. Oh, it's good. Oh, this morning I noticed that one of our old friends, Fant, was playing some Dune Awakening, was streaming it, and was watching him. He was over in Odom. And it was fun to watch him play and interesting to watch him play as well. He's not a stranger to gaming. He's been gaming for quite a while, as far as I know. But to see where he's at and how he was playing is interesting. It's interesting to see the way that different people play the same game and how they approach various obstacles, because where he's at, he's not precisely geared for. And on top of that, he very definitely needed some better equipment, or at least some more equipment. One of his biggest issues, and one of the things that he was running into, was that it didn't look like he had a leader John, or if he had a leader John, it was empty, because he was right at the cusp of being, or starting to die from thirst, which was a little entertaining to say the least. Oh, good. Looks like I can update those. But it's also a stark reminder of the things that games start teaching and sort of pounding into your brain as you go. In fact, last weekend, while I was mowing the lawn, that's not what I need. But while I was mowing the lawn, there was some dew that was on the ground in the grass. It was kind of, one of those moist weekend kind of things. Hot night, cool morning. I'm so wound up with some dew on the ground. And what made it interesting is the first thing that I did was look at it and start immediately chastising myself for wasting water. And then I had to stop myself and go, wait a minute. You don't live on a desert planet with giant sandworms. It's okay. You don't have to worry about that. And yet, it was a strangely comforting thought. Now, for the love of Christ, just weld this bitch up. Yeah, there. That thing is so in the way right now. Anyway. All right, next up, I need... One, two, three. Production. Okay. Get those going. And hopefully... Now, I imagine one of those is going to wind up getting filled up with stone. Just hands down, it always happens. But, at the very least, that will give us an opportunity to not only fill up with stone, but to also move some stuff around so that we can better compensate for the influx of stone. And also for the almost consistent increase in components. Ooh. Damn, he's moving away. Did they take out danger signals or something? Because we should have been attacked by now by something. Well. Okay, there we go. I need a little more volume in that. Yeah, so this morning, for whatever reason, I go to get everything started up. I knew that OBS had an update that it needed to do, so I was like, I'll just go ahead and knock it out real quick. I had a few extra minutes. Start up OBS, check for update runs, OBS restarts. All of a sudden, headphones die. I've had this happen before recently. So I just unplug it, replug it back in. Now, all of a sudden, it's telling me that I needed to restart. And I'm like, the hell you say? So now I'm like, fine. We'll just go ahead and restart. Computer could probably use it anyway. It used to be you could run your computer for weeks between restarts. And you'd barely have a problem. Now it feels like you need to restart at least once every few days. And I don't get it. Actually, no, that's not true. I do get it. On one hand, people will say the level of complexity has gone up. But I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think it's the level of complexity. I think it is the level of developer laziness. And not the developer themselves per se, but the company overseeing the developer. What are you? Why are you coming closer, maybe? What's going on here? Oh, no, you're going away. Never mind. But I think one of the biggest issues is in order to ensure that there are specific deadlines that companies are hitting, publishers are hitting, they cut corners. They don't allow for the greatest level of Q&A. In fact, a lot of companies have just gotten away with quality assurance. They just do away with it because, well, the people will find the bugs. And we as individuals have just gotten used to the idea of being the QA. We've gotten used to being the ones who report the bugs and say, hey, there's this issue, go ahead and fix this. Good God. But anyway. So once I get finished drilling this, and what'll probably happen is once I get this level done, I really only need to bring it down, I think, one more level. Yeah, one level. Because so far, for each level that I drill out, what I've been doing is dropping it down 2 conveyor lengths. But I think for this one, I should really only need to do 1. And I should be good. And then what I did was, since there was a little bit of an edge here, is I just went around with my drill and just cleaned that up. and took that out. Looks fine. You wouldn't even notice it if I didn't tell anybody. And then what I'll be able to do after I get all of this stuff drilled out is I'll be able to then start laying in a floor, as well as setting up a sort of an idea on where I want to have my side. Well, I know where I want my side tunnels, but then also to have the main tunnel continue back into the mountain deeper so that we can start setting up the facility proper. And then from there, I'll be able to look at adding, one of the things that was suggested was to make a large power room. So we're going to have to do that, which fortunately, as long as I can catch some uranium at some point, we can then use the plasma reactor, which will be pretty sweet. Now, I don't believe that I added, in fact, I'm pretty sure I didn't add uranium and platinum to planets. I think I made that still specifically a space thing, at least for Earth-like. Yeah. Are we there yet? We're getting there. That looks fully extended. All right, last ones. These should be pretty quick, since they are a little bit shorter. Not the full 10 meters. I think I only have them set at 4.5 or something like that. So we should be able to get through it fairly quickly. Oh, so yesterday, Kintar had mentioned, hey, what's up, Dots? And not quite a full tunnel. This is actually just a central bay, if you will. But so yesterday, Kintar had mentioned that he got another coworker to join our Dune server. And I was giving him shit over the fact that at this rate, he's actually going to have to spend a little bit more money to up the number of slots that we have available, because I think we only have like 6 available on this server. Which really, I mean, it's surprising that we have a group that is growing like that, which is pretty cool. There we go. No. Dune Awakening. Nope. I had a Space Engineers server last month. Ran the entire month. It was pretty cool. But also, I probably won't do it for a while. Won't do it again for a while. Yeah, unfortunately. See, the unfortunate problem was that I decided to start the server the same month that Dune Awakening was coming out. I did not realize how addicted to Dune I was going to be. So what wound up happening was that I spent more time playing Dune than I did playing Space Engineers. Unfortunately. And also it was a situation where the planet that we started out on just wasn't as good as I would have liked. Hey, what's up, Spectre? But that's how it is sometimes. By the way, Dots, by the way, wanted to let you know that I started working on a new version of More Dots. I haven't finished it. I just, like, I've only gotten but so far with it. But I had an idea. Yes, I did, Spectre. I did. I already read through it and it looks amazing. And in fact, I'll touch on that in a little bit. But yes, started working on a new More Dots. It looks really sweet, really sick. To answer your question about, well, to mention Dune as a game and to just kind of bring you up to speed on it, it is a multiplayer survival game in which you build bases, you build vehicles, you have two main maps that you're working on. You have the Haga Basin, which is very definitely PvE, player versus environment. You have missions, you have quests, that sort of thing to complete. And that's really the more chill area. And then you can go out to what's called the Deep Desert. And that's really more geared towards player versus player, winner takes all kind of BS. And that's where all the higher end materials are for collecting and stuff like that. Strangely enough, not many people like the Deep Desert comparatively. I wonder why. But all in all, it's actually a really good game. Funcom, who does Dune Awakening, they also did Conan Exiles. If you've ever played Conan Exiles, you have effectively played Dune Awakening. Absolutely. If you were to basically take a poll of players, I guarantee you that there are more people who like PvE than those who like PvP. And it's just the way of things. Oh no, you're absolutely right, Spectre. However, there is one funny thing that I am drastically amused by. So they recently changed the PvP flag timer so that if you are going from PvP to PvE, it takes 30 seconds for that flag to go away. However, it takes just 5 seconds to go from PvE to PvP, which is super annoying. And you can definitely tell where they want people to be at. You can definitely tell they want you to get into fights. But yeah, they've been having fun with that. I can understand the whole being lied to thing in a video game. There's been a couple of video games I've dropped because they were less than honest with their marketing. Man, I think we're about done here. We'll let it do. Oh, no, not quite. Still has a little bit more to go. Yeah, still a little bit more to go. Okay. Well, okay. So that's one of those things that's not explicitly a lie. And now I can understand a certain level of frustration with that. But at the same time, the problem, I think, comes with the definitions of expansion and DLC. And this is where a lot of companies have a problem with that, is that they will just blanket call everything DLC. which technically is accurate. As these days, everything is digital. Everything that you get outside of the base package is downloadable content. We then have a certain expectation of the difference between an expansion and a DLC that we have been sort of trained with. Hey, Silent, not too bad about yourself. Yeah, technically you could consider the base package DLC by definition. But that aside, when you are looking at additional content for a game, I typically look at anything that is a small package, a small deliverable, cosmetics. In the case of Space Engineers, where you have, let's say, some additional blocks, that stuff would be DLC. It's a small package, doesn't generally adjust gameplay in any meaningful way. If it does, it's a small mechanic. It's an additional tiny little thing. I then look at anything that changes gameplay or adds a significant gameplay alteration as an expansion. So, for instance, adding another planet, or in the case of Conan Exiles, adding a new map. Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty is a great example of an expansion because it's an entirely new experience added onto the base game. And honestly, probably one of the best expansions to come out in a long time. Okay. If only there was a way to turn off mechanics that we didn't like or want to use in Space Engineers. Man, I hope they think of a way to do that. Exactly. Like, in the history of Space Engineers, when have they ever explicitly forced us to have to endure any of their new mechanics? Ever. There is never have they gone out of their way and said, you have to do this, period. Everything that they add, they almost always add a toggle for it or give you some way to ignore anything that you don't want to deal with. That's why I will always 100% support Keen Software House. They have always done right by me. Okay, yeah, no. Well, yes, but no, because you could still turn off the weather. So technically, there was still a way around it. Because, come on, let's be realistic. The weather's kind of just meh anyway. But other than that little faux pas, they've done pretty good. Standing next to anything in this game can kill you. That's the beautiful thing about it. We almost done yet? I think we are. Awesome. Once this actually gets realigned, then we get it back into its sort of center position, we'll go ahead and stop it, fold it back up. Actually, I can go ahead and start folding it back up now. And then I can pop the drills off of here, drop it down, and we should be good to do the last layer. And honestly, as far as drill heads go, this is probably actually my most basic one. Outside of just, attaching drills to a piston and then dropping it down, this is actually ridiculously basic for what I've done. Which I kind of like for a change. And come on. Almost. Almost. Boom. There we go. Yeah, I can do that real quick. Let's take a look at Mordots Mark II. I need to finish the body for it and the back end for it. But I was setting it up again to make sure that it would be able to handle the mining drones that you were using at the time. God damn. That's funny. The other night, my mom sent me an email for a YouTube video she came across. Oh, fuck off, Dots. It's not my fault you play with ridiculous settings. Jesus. It'll work great in space. I don't know about planets. But so my mom sent me this YouTube short that was talking about that during 2021, during the height of COVID, that the government was paying laboratories to do tests on various types of tumors. And the scientists found out that apparently nicotine, of all things, would help get rid of these tumors. Oh, gee. All right. So here goes the original version of Mordots. And honestly, yeah, it's not going to fly so well with ridiculous settings. Like if you start having an inventory setting of like times 10, times 15 or whatever, it ain't going to work. At least on a planet. However, I am going with a slightly smaller version of this. Now, I don't have this obviously set up correctly so that once it's connected, it shuts all of its thrusters off. This is mostly just for the purposes of testing. But the way that it works, once I get in here, there it is. Is once you get inside, was this the one? Yes. You will have two sets of rotors. That will go ahead. That's got windows, but yeah. There we go. So that way what it'll do is tuck the drones up out of the way. So that way I can reduce the overall height and size of the ship. And then that way, once you're done with it, and hopefully all the thrusters on the drone will shut off when it's connected. And then from there, you just fly off where you need to. When you're done, or when you're ready to then launch the drones. Whoops. Oh yeah, no. It's still in the process of being constructed. But I have been doing my best to add more and more thrusters to it where it seemed feasible. Thank you. But yeah, I really wanted to make sure that I was getting this. I wanted to make it smaller and sleeker, specifically so that it could better handle the weight that it was going to be holding. Because that was one of the things that I was looking at with the old iteration of Mordots, is just how big it is on the inside and how much empty dead space it has in there that it doesn't necessarily need. And so I was going through, it does have a little medical bay here. It's even got a little crew bunk. You've also got on this side crew quarters, real cramped. It's got 2 cryopods, 2 beds, taking full advantage of a lot of the DLC blocks. Jesus. That is a hell of a ship. You then can come down here. This brings you down to engineering, which I haven't finished yet. Still have a lot of work to do here. I might need to clear out these pipes. Actually, I know I need to clear out those pipes. And then also bring some pathways and whatnot down around here. But yeah, that's what I've got so far. Oh no, engineering is going in there. You're getting pathways. I am absolutely doing that. But yeah, like I said, I really just wanted to make a version of Mordots that was sleeker, almost more like a stealth ship in a way. But also to kind of keep the same general look and feel. Yeah, that was one of the other things that bothered me about the original Mordots. Was this cockpit. It was just too big, too fat, I think, is kind of the word that I was looking for. Oh yeah, this god-awful airlock. This thing is... Oh man. I know you were attached to that airlock, but I hate it. I hate it so much. Now, granted, this cockpit gives you a lot of visibility as well, which is nice. Like having all the additional windows and whatnot. But this ship was definitely one of my earlier works. Suspelux. And then, of course, you had down here this whole engineering section, which... Now, I will say I was super, super happy with doing all the pipe work. So, all of the green pipe work, if I remember correctly, was... Yeah. So, everything that's red is specifically for fuel and cargo. Everything that's green goes to the thrusters. I think that's the way that I had it right. Yeah. Maybe that was part of the problem. But anyway, how sober was I when I made this? That might be part of the problem. there were just there were definitely a lot of design flaws in this. Well, you're not exactly going to be spending a lot of time down there. Nope, that one. Oh, for the love of all. You know what? Screw you. On. Nope. Out of my way. That's why I hate that damn airlock. Anyway, so this is more dots 2, Mark 2. I haven't worked on it in a little while because I've been doing other stuff. But with any luck, she'll eventually be flight worthy. She'll actually be able to do what she's supposed to do. And it'll be a good ship. And the nice thing is, because of the fact that these are not specifically designed entirely around just that mining drone, they can be used for any number of things or just flat out removed. In fact, I might make it so that this entire section here is designed in such a way to be modular. That way you could just pop this stuff out, attach something different, and it will all still work the way that it's supposed to. And still provide... Ooh. Oh, no, that's right, because that's all backboned in. I was like, wait a minute, that could be a problem. And then I realized, nope, we're good. Yeah, because that's all backboned in through there. I'll just have to finish that up, but not a problem. Kind of. Well, Mordots looks like a boat as well. I wonder... I doubt it, but I wonder how well it would float. Because I don't think because the engineering, the belly of the ship is not airtight. So it probably wouldn't. But, yeah. So there you go. There's your preview of Mordots Mark II. Still work in progress. Still poking around at it. Yeah, that could work too. But like I said, what I'm doing with Mordots 2 is I'm trying to streamline the original design. Now, what I could do is the tail section, go ahead and give it a couple of engine pods. In fact, probably that would help with its overall flight characteristics. And then also I could add some additional shenanigans to it, like some additional reactors. Put some of the hydrogen tanks back there as well. Cock and ball style. There you go. Oh yeah, vertical ships actually are really cool too. In fact, funny you should mention that. I was watching a short earlier talking about how George Lucas originally wanted the Millennium Falcon to be able to fly vertically so that the bridge would rotate. Oh, gotcha. But so that way the saucer would go from flat to vertical. And it's like, that is actually kind of a cool idea for a ship, which we eventually see in vessels like Slave One, as well as the B Wing. Yeah. And then a few other of the Rebel ships do that. But it is interesting, the various ways that we come up with ship designs. All right, let's go ahead. And while that is Anakin raced. But yeah, I know what you mean. So basically what you're looking for is more of a pod racer look. So you want not the ship that I'm working on. Got it. I will see what I can come up with. And last one. Do I have... Oh, I do. Awesome. I need steel. Perfect. No, I'm just... It's... So, Mordots Mark II, I haven't designed it around the idea of having front engine pods. If you look at a ship and that's all you see, that sounds like a you problem, not me. So... Toot. Maybe need to come down too. Actually, yeah, I think I do need to come down too. Okay. No. Yeah. I'm so indecisive. Now we just take out this rim here. Now, it is a side project, mind you, so it's not something that I'm going to be working on extensively. And especially as we draw closer and closer to Space Engineers 2. Okay, good for him. I mean, that's awesome that he's labeled ship types and all. Oh, he also forgot one. There's 4 ship types. Jesus, Dots. It's just a sequel. What do you have against Space Engineers 2? Definitely fill us in on that one. Because that is an incredibly strong emotion for that. Almost. And... okay. I don't think that they've said that they won't have ice lakes. But also, like, that's one of the beautiful things about the whole ordeal is, well, you still have Space Engineers 1, so that's cool. You still have your ice lakes. There we go. That was unusual. Are we still emptying stone? No. Awesome. Now the question is, will I be able to get one of you bastards in here? All right, I do need to clear that out. No. The reason why I think that is actually a terrible idea is very simple. Go play on any public server for Space Engineers. Go play Star Citizen. Go play Dune Awakening in the Deep Desert. Go play any game that has an open, unmitigated, unstructured PvP capability. Because the reality is 85% of your player base is just going to want to sit and chill. The other 15% of your player base is going to want to fuck with that. And that 15% is either going to shrink because the developers went, okay, maybe we overemphasize this a little too much. Or it's going to cause the other 85% to go away. A massive MMO scale version of Space Engineers is a terrible idea. Now, if you're wanting to run a private server or dedicated server specifically around that idea, awesome, do it. But I don't think Keen should focus their resources on a game like that. It would be a misallocation of their time and their talent. They are better spent working on DLC and whatever other smaller projects that they've got going. That is where their talents are. All right, let's get this kind of cleaned out. However, I tell you this much, as soon as the 2.0 update for Space Engineers 2 comes out, I will be all over that. I probably will drop whatever I'm doing in Space Engineers 1 and immediately start playing SE2. And I will not feel guilty about it at all. Because there's so much about Space Engineers 2 that I'm looking forward to. And even what they have already, I have been enjoying since I've been trying to get back into it. Even as frustrating as yesterday was, I was still enjoying the act of building and construction. I was still getting into the detail work. Okay, I'll take a look at it here in a little bit. And I have a lot of faith in Keen that they will do a good job with Space Engineers 2. If you look at what they've done with Space Engineers 1, and where they have taken it as a franchise and as a product, I am really happy with it. And I mentioned this before, they did have a little bit of a misstep with Medieval Engineers. But that happens sometimes. I think they made the right decision to go ahead and consolidate their efforts onto just Space Engineers, because that really was the bigger of the two projects in terms of player engagement and the overall scale of the project, I think. You know, it definitely sucks for those who were into Medieval Engineers, but I think at the end of the day, it was just the better decision, looking back on it. All right, let's see if we can... Oh, you son of a bitch. Ha! One, two, three, four. Ah! Almost. What is that? That is 4, 5, almost 6. Wait, nope. That's all I need. Okay. Okay. I can understand where you're coming from. But I will explain why it may not have been possible for Keen to do the things that you think they should have been able to do. When you write a game engine, you typically have to do multiple parts for the game engine itself. There's the rendering, there's the game logic, there's the physics engine. Those are the three sort of basic components. There's a little bit more that goes into it, but just at the most basic level, that's what you're looking at. Now, when Space Engineers was first developed, and they were working on the V-Rage engine, which is what it runs on, the hardware at the time and the software that was available at the time, because you got to remember, this was what, 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, when they were developing this, even a little bit longer than that. Hardware was vastly different back then. And so they were working with limitations, sort of the upper level and mid-level of what was available at the time. And so when they programmed the engine, when they put it together, they had to take into account what was possible at the time. Now, over this past decade, we've had several generations of video cards come out. We've had several generations of processors that have come out. We're on two different generations, 2 generations more in terms of RAM. And we've had 2 versions of Windows, 3 versions of Windows come out since then. Because Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11. So in that time, we've had multiple generations of technology that have come out and that things have changed. But, and this is a big but, the other thing that has been holding back Space Engineers from becoming more and being able to do more is the fact that it still also has to work on consoles. So there's several limitations involved right there alone. But to circle back, there comes a point when what you worked on previously can only be upgraded so far because of either what's called tech debt or technical debt, or simply because of the fact that what you were working with at the time cannot be made better. No, that's not true at all. Space Engineers console release. So, it released on Xbox One in 2020, so it's been 5 years. And it released on PlayStation 4 and 5 in 2023. So it's actually had console support for half of its lifespan, if you will. Now, in all fairness, I mean, Xbox is just a tiny PC anyway. But regardless, some of the limitations of the original engine are just those things that you have to deal with. And it is an unfortunate side effect of that. Yeah, that's true. I think at the end of the day, the decision to rebuild the V-Rage engine into V-Rage 3 was the correct decision. I think the decision to also fix or to actually include the Havoc engine is a good idea too, because that's the other thing, is the physics engine for Space Engineers 1 is also one of the limiting factors. It can only handle so many physics objects at the same time before it starts having issues. We've all dealt with this. Anybody who has done any serious building in Space Engineers 1 has run into physics engine limitations or physics issues or just general clang for no reason at all. This could be some of the most basic setups. You just seem really contrary about everything today, Dots. At the end of the day, no, Havoc is not dropped in general. Havoc is used for a lot of stuff still. PhysX has been dropped, or at least support for 32-bit versions of PhysX has been dropped. Everything is now 64-bit PhysX, which is a NVIDIA thing. At the end of the day, the beautiful thing is that so far, Keen has basically said they are going to continue to support Space Engineers 1. See, everybody's got their stories. But Keen is still going to support Space Engineers 1. They've still got a few DLCs that are in the oven that they're working on, which is awesome. And they're going to be able to support Space Engineers 2 because they've grown their team a bit, which again, also awesome. And I think for a lot of us, we're looking forward to Space Engineers 2. No. Keen hasn't said that at all. Where are you getting this information from? Because that is everything that I have heard is that Keen has another DLC that they're working on. 2, but it has never been explicitly stated that that was the last one. Actually, everything that I've heard is that they have several more waiting to be brought out. I don't know. That seems wrong. Now, it could just be that as far as the information that he has available, because isn't he a community manager for them? Dude. Yeah, that's what I thought. So the information that he has is going to be different, I think, in general. Now, obviously, there are very definitely things that they can and cannot say, but everything that I have seen, everything that I have read, everything that I have heard is that this is the next coming up DLC is going to be a big one, but that it is not the last one, that they actually have a couple more that are kind of loaded and ready to be worked on or are currently in pre-production. Now, you could also be right, Dots. I'm not saying you're not incorrect, or I'm not saying you're wrong. I am just saying that the general information that I have, and a lot of other people have corroborated this, is that it's not the last DLC for Space Engineers 1. A lot of the things that have been mentioned and a lot of the things that have been said is that they are still going to support Space Engineers 1 in the near future. So for at least the next year or two is what I have heard. Alrighty. Let's let these go. And don't even apologize, man. See, this is... I want people to be able to feel like they can express or say whatever they want, or whatever information that they have available, because that's the only way that we can all learn about the information. If everybody is tight-lipped about what they know, even if there's a disagreement, even if there is that, okay, well, this information doesn't line up with this information, that's fine. At least it's out there. We can discuss it and we can figure out where sort of the middle is. Because usually the middle is where the actual truth is. So between both sides, somewhere in the middle is where the actual correct information is. That's fair. But I also don't see that the two would be competing products, strangely enough. And especially with the direction that they are taking Space Engineers 2. No, God, no. If this was Ubisoft, we'd be fucked. Just straight up fucked. But no, as far as I am aware, Space Engineers 1 and Space Engineers 2, while similar, are also going to be two semi-different experiences. Yeah, and most will remain in Space Engineers 1 until its full release, I think. Oh, God, yes. Which, that is a huge thing. And I think that is Ubisoft reacting to stop killing games. And more specifically, that is a lot of these big companies reacting to stop killing games. Because all of a sudden, you have a whole bunch of gamers and a whole bunch of consumers that are very interested in what's going on. 10 months ago, they got lucky. 10 months ago, Pirate Software was able to stave off the surge of consumer rights advocacy for video games. He did a very good job of trying to kill the initiative. However, all of a sudden, right up at the deadline, new stuff came out. And everybody suddenly realized, wait a minute, this actually sounds like a good thing. Why would we want to, like, kill our games off? Exactly. That's the other thing that a lot of people are saying, and they've been saying it for a while. If buying is not owning, then piracy is not stealing. If I logged into a server and I was on a ship the size of my base, I would be like, cool. Because honestly, having played Star Citizen and having played Eve, the scale of things, I've just kind of gotten used to large stuff. I know that's what she said, but yeah. Oh, who's messaging me now? What does she want? Oh God, some of my friends. But yeah, so for those of you who are unaware of what Stop Killing Games is, or SKG, all the SKG initiative is asking is for there to be a discussion around video game companies having an end-of-life plan available, i.e., if you have a live service game that requires that there be some sort of internet connection, when you are developing the game, develop the game with the idea that it will eventually shut down and how to proceed with that to allow the player base to continue to play the game that they purchased after the fact, after it's closed down. Not true. Space Engineers is not, or not Space, Star Citizen is not the most expensive game ever made. It is the second most expensive game ever made. I think it is the most expensive science fiction game ever made. However, GTA 6 is currently beating them. I think they have like something like $1.5 billion invested in GTA 6. So good. That just sounds like a design flaw. If you can't fulfill the atmosphere in your ship because you need too much thrust, is it 2 billion now? Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, the problem with Star Citizen is Chris Roberts. Chris Roberts is his own worst enemy. And historically, this has been proven. There was a little game that came out a long time ago. Yep. Right there. But Chris Roberts started a company called Digital Anvil way back in the day. And Chris Roberts had this idea for a grand space game where you could go anywhere, you could do anything. It was going to be the end-all, be-all for the space simulation genre. This little game had voice acting. It had an incredible storyline. It was all about being able to experience the feeling of either being a space pirate or being part of the Space Navy, flying and owning multiple different types of ships, being able to outfit them with guns and thrusters and countermeasures. And it was about being able to explore cities and space stations and get on these large, massive carriers. And then Microsoft got pissed off because it was taking too long. They fired Chris Roberts, made the rest of his team finish the game, and we actually got the really amazing Freelancer. And this has been a problem of Chris Roberts for a very long time, is that he winds up feature creeping his games into oblivion. And he overpromises and underdelivers. And he takes on too much because he's an idiot. It's great to dream big. Dream big all day long. That's amazing. But you absolutely have to also be able to realize that dreaming big does not also equate to getting shit done. One of the biggest problems that Star Citizen faces is that Chris Roberts has dreamed big for so long, and he's finally untethered, that his big dreams are also what's getting in his way. Again, design flaw. Like, anytime that you design a ship, your main areas need to be oxygenated because that's the main location that you're going to have life. If you have people walking through thrusters, maybe you should reconsider thruster placement. Not always conducive to good tourism. That being said, though, it sounds like it's a massive ship. Let's take a look at it real quick. Let's see. Yep. Announcements. Oh. Ooh. Okay, so Space Engineers 2 got its update for today. Looks like let's see, they bring out the new locker block. Awesome. They upgraded the flames for the hydrogen thruster, and then they also polished up the shower block. So that's cool. Yeah, no problem, Dots. That's a fairly sizable ship. That should definitely get the job done. Definitely looks interesting. No more asteroid. Man. Well, so far so good. Once this actually gets done, this should be the final pass, I believe. Then I can go ahead and disassemble the whole drill rig, and we can start looking at the side chamber placement and the main chamber placement. Yeah, I did. I was just looking at it. I didn't pull it up because it's on my Discord, and I'm not going to bring Discord up on the screen. I don't have it like specifically locked off or anything like that. But I'm going to take a quick AFK. And then when I get back, we'll continue to ramble for a little while more because I've still got to wait for this to finish. But hey, let's take a look at the mountains and the falling rocks because that's pretty. There we go. I'll be back in just a second. Okay. And enjoy your lurk, Dots. Good to hear from you. Okay. There you go. Yes, you're getting pummeled by pumice. The best clean in the universe. Also, how are we doing on Stone? Yeah, there we go. 438,000 stone. And I'm trying to get rid of as much of it as possible. Like I said, this should be the last run that we need to do. Then I should be able to disassemble this whole thing. Although, honestly, as far as a drill goes, this has been fairly straightforward and incredibly effective. It has done its job admirably, which can't always say that about all my other inventions and engineering marvels, but yes, I saw that earlier. I can't imagine that. I can also imagine how much of a pain in the ass that would be. Now, see, that's the kind of ship that would actually benefit greatly from utilizing the R-Links thrusters that I like to use. The ones based off of the Expanse. Do I have... yeah, Arlen Drive Systems. There we go. These bastards here. Because these would be perfect for increasing the amount of thrust that's available. Yeah, you got to worry about that there. That's why you build limitations into what you're working on. If you know what your limits are going to wind up being. Gotcha. I've actually been enjoying moving away from modular encounters. that'll definitely that'll definitely change some things there. Uh, Absolutely. And especially with how easy it's going to be to mod the game. I think that's one of the big things that a lot of modders have been looking at is just how easy it is now to add those sorts of blocks in. Because that's one of the big issues for me with Space Engineers 1 is that while you can get some good detail, my biggest complaint has always been the inability to efficiently add textures to blocks or to add new textures in general. Yes. Yes, I am well aware, Dots, that they can do that. However, the only way that they can do that is if you're sitting in a chair connected to it. More so, the size of the hill or the size of the hole that they drill is larger than what I'm actually looking to drill out. So I know that they could do that because, you know, they're based off of this drill here, which does the same thing. However, that doesn't get me what I'm looking for. And honestly, this isn't that big of a deal because all of these rocks, first of all, it's really satisfying to watch them go rolling down the hill. But they get to about down there and then they disappear. See, there they go. So it's not like I'm creating a situation where I'm just piling up 1,000 rocks. Although that would be funny. So all in all, this is actually just a perfectly suitable method for doing what I need to do. And we are, I think, fully extended there. Drill. Nope, not drill, piston. Why are you so stupid, Cruz? Why are you so stupid? And reverse. There we go. We'll get started on the next pass. And on top of that, it just looks really cool doing it like this, you know? There we go. Yeah, that evens out quite nicely. Look at that. And then there. That is a fairly flat floor. And the other thing is that even though I'm getting rid of a lot of the stone, or at least I'm trying to get rid of as much stone as possible, and I'm not keeping it around, there is obviously some that is still going through the system. So I am still refining a whole bunch that's coming through it. So once this finishes, I will still have a bunch of stone, bunch of, how much iron am I up to at this point? We got 61,000, 18,000, 31,000. No, it's not nearly as much as when I did the 2-kilometer tunnel. Thank you, Jesus, it's not that much. Because that was one of the things that kind of irritated me is that I had so many resources from just drilling stone that I had no reason to ever go back out and collect iron, nickel, or silicon ever again at all. I had so much of those basic three that you could have taken all of the stuff off of the planet and I still would have had enough for the next year. That's how frustrating it was. And that's where I kind of have a problem sometimes, is that stone is too good. Now, I know that there are mods that change that. I know there are mods that make it so that stone is not quite as valuable. The problem with mods like that, though, is that they don't necessarily work well for when you're starting out. What I would like to see, and what I'm hopeful for in Space Engineers 2, is removing stone as a viable source of resources, period. And that what winds up happening is that you have to rely only on pure sources of ores for anything. So you have to find iron, you have to find cobalt, you have to find nickel, even at the early stages. Because from what I understand, and from what I've read so far, is the way that it's going to work is that you will have your backpack as your basic level of crafting when you first start out. That will allow you to craft the most basic level of components that you need for constructing anything. Then the next level is a basic crafter, which basically does everything your backpack can do plus a couple extra, but it does it faster and more efficient. And then from there, the whole process begins to expand as you need those basic components to do more advanced components, to do more advanced components, etc., etc. So they're getting rid of ingots, kind of like Empyrean. I would actually say more like Factorio. I think Factorio would actually be the better analogy for that. Because with Factorio, you have pocket construction or backpack construction of basic materials that you need. But it's not as efficient as doing it with the machines themselves. And then you need those machines to do the components for more complicated stuff down the line. So, yeah. And man, I mentioned this before. I really, really wanted to love Empyrean. I really wanted to be into that game. Unfortunately, it's not as good as I would have liked. Which reminds me, Empyrean Galactic Survival. How many hours do I have in it? I have 83 hours in Empyrean. My problem with Empyrean, my biggest problem with Empyrean is building in that game. The build controls are painful. And I really wish that they were more like Space Engineers. If they were more like Space Engineers, I probably would be playing that a little bit more than I do. Because there's certain aspects of that game that I really do like. I like the fact that it does have certain prefabs, like the electric bike. I like the fact that it has, well, I think one of the other problems that I have with it, now that I'm thinking about it, strangely enough, is that it also doesn't have the ability to go from planet to space seamlessly. That it is a loading screen. And I know that's a silly little nitpick, but Space Engineers absolutely kind of babied me on that. It spoiled me on the fact that you could just go from planet to space that easily, and that the two can interact with each other. Like being able to build a space station on an asteroid, gather resources, and then throw that shit back down to the planet in Space Engineers. That's cool. I own it. I already own Empyrean. I mean, obviously, I have 83 hours in it. But I can't get into it these days. That's my biggest problem, is I just cannot get into it anymore. Because honestly, between Factorio, Satisfactory, and Space Engineers, I have all of the survival crafting games of the sci-fi genre kind of that I'm going to need. I definitely don't have that many hours in Space Engineers. Let's see. Currently for Space Engineers, I have... Where are you at? I am just shy of 3,300 hours. I have not played 7 Days to Die. So currently my answer is no, I don't like it. I've seen a lot about it. My sister and my brother played it. They enjoyed it. I know a lot of other people played it and enjoyed it, but I just never bought it. I kind of generally fell out of love with zombie survival games in general, because they all sort of follow the same patterns. Now, I know 7 Days to Die has the whole base building thing, and the survival aspects are a little bit different. But just in general, I got kind of bored of zombie survival. Like, I have DayZ, the standalone DayZ. I've put maybe an hour into that tops. And that's supposed to be a really good one. I have Project Zomboid. I've put maybe 4 hours into that. A lot of it is just that my taste in games has changed so much over the past, I don't know, 4 years. Games that I used to absolutely love and enjoy, I just don't care for anymore. And games that I was like, I could do without that. I'm like, nope, I need more of that. I need that all the time. So. That is a beautiful floor. One of my biggest things, and this is definitely like my fault more than anything else, is that for an incredibly long period of time as a gamer, I was a pothead. And so the things that I was doing as a gamer during those periods of time, where I was basically baked all the time, I am no longer in that mindset. That, and as I have gotten older, no, I wish I was. Can't afford to be right now. Believe me, if I had the money, I might go back to it. Money. Well, I quit. Actually, no, I quit smoking because of money as well. But the other reason why I quit is just because of money. I absolutely would go back to that lifestyle if I could afford it. But at the same time, I don't mind the sobriety either. It's I kind of enjoy being clear-headed for long periods of time. It's nice. Every once in a while, having a little bit, like I did, I think it was last year for my birthday. That was nice. There's a store nearby that's a hemp store, and they sell, what is that? THCA hemp joints. And I had one of those recently, and that was nice. It was a nice sort of vacation, if you will. And that, yeah. For me, I was spending about 160 to 200 a month when I could afford it. And I was going through it so quickly that I just, sometimes couldn't keep up with myself financially. And so it just reached a point where I was like, you know what? Shit. I wish. I wish I could grow it. Like, I really, really wish it was legal to grow personally. I wish it was legal in general. And that's fair, Turnip. That is absolutely fair. I know, right? The other thing, and this is something that my mom and I talked about, because, she's smoked off and on for years as well. But we've talked about the fact that it's gotten a little bit too potent in a way. Like, they've been chasing after THC contents for so long that it's become a little too heavy. And it used to be like, I don't know, 20 years ago, when the THC content was lower, that you would get baked, but it didn't feel like you were being put under like 14 layers of water. No, you're not. You're not incorrect. I think if we dropped the potency, or at least had various levels of potency, it would be a little bit better. But you're not wrong. Having such a high concentration of THC is actually, I think, detrimental. All right, last pistons. But the other thing is that it's so heavy that it isn't quite as enjoyable as it used to be. I think is one of the big problems. It used to be that you could smoke a joint and it was like having a shot of whiskey. It wasn't so much that you were immediately drunk and you were about to fall over and piss yourself and throw up everywhere kind of thing. It gave you a nice buzz, and it was chill and it was mellow, and you felt tingly and good. Now you smoke a joint and you're like, it feels like I'm walking through oobleck or non-Newtonian solids. Edibles are a good way to go too. Yeah. And I honestly, I think edibles in general are probably the better way to go, because you do have a little bit more control over the content of it. But that being said, I do still miss smoking, because I was a cigarette smoker for over 20 years. And I miss smoking. I miss cigarettes. So much. Even though I haven't smoked for 5 years now, there's just that need that's still in the back of my brain. That desire to pick up a cigarette, light it, smoke it, that sort of thing, that I miss so much. And I think that's one of the worst feelings, like being that enslaved by something sucks. And it never really goes away. I know for some people, they're like, oh no, I was able to just quit and never think about it again. And I'm like, I only half believe you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, primarily this is just going to act as a central hub that will lead off to side chambers and then a main chamber that'll go into the base proper. And then straight ahead, when I drilled that out, that is going to lead upstairs, which will then eventually lead towards the front of the mountain, where I will have some big guns, where hopefully I will start getting attacked again. I know, right? I don't know. I'm enslaved by space engineers. It doesn't technically have a pair. I don't even technically have a pair. Good stuff. But yeah. Ooh. Wonder if that's gonna nail the console. We're gonna move that. Nice. And yes, I absolutely could build a pair. That would be funny, actually. Okay, you need to be drills on off. And then you need to be advanced rotor 2, rotor lock. And then you need to be pistons, retract. Let's see if we can do this. Rotor displacement. Damn it. No. There we go. Oh, come on. Well, hey. Thank you for the follow there, Livian. Much appreciated. Rotor displacement. There we go. Yeah, that totally would have nailed the the button panel if I'd left it where it was at. And this should be the last rotation that we need to finish this off. Once it is done, I can go ahead and disassemble this whole thing. And we can start putting in the floor. Once the floor is in, we can then look at where I'm going to put the side exits. And specifically in the case of those, I'm probably going to make them the same width as this. Which, let me tell you, the 3x3 floor plates are amazing for trying to measure stuff out because you already know that they're 3 blocks wide. It makes the math so much easier. And especially because you can either do it in even numbers so that you've got your center point between the 2 plates, or you can do it in odd numbers. So your center point is the middle of the plate. So because of that, it really gives you a whole lot of flexibility in being able to easily measure out larger areas. Because you're only counting the plate and then multiplying by 3. Easy as hell. Stupid simple math. Which, who doesn't love stupid simple math? Is there anything that you do like, Dots? Jesus. Oh my God. You're over here just, I don't like this. I don't like that. You're starting to sound grumpier than me. Stop that. It's my job. In fact, you're taking away from old Grumpy. He's not going to have anything left to be grumpy about if you keep taking everything. Oh. All right, we're almost done here. Oh yeah, it was a good thing that I went ahead and did that. And I wonder. Sometimes I believe it. Ooh, that's what I should do. Let's go ahead and move this. Whoop. Out of the way. Oh, that's right. Info, convert to ship. I'm actually just going to let it sit here off to the side. Oh, if I need to recharge anything, I just go ahead and I hop in my mining ship. My mining ship has hydrogen, oxygen, and it has power. So not too worried about that. We are. Alrighty, Spectre. Have fun with that. I'm only missing 3 health. Not too worried about it. The only time I am going to be worried about where my survival kit is and whether it's on or not is if I'm getting attacked. At that point, I'll start worrying about it. But for right now, we should be okay. And I just realized one of the things that I can do. I'll have to clean up some of the ceiling. But one of the things that I can do is actually go ahead and no, that's fine. Not a big deal. But no, one of the things that I'm thinking about is that I've been worried about putting some sort of hangar doors in here for a while that I can shut that will allow me to protect the interior of the hangar should anything either fire through or get to this point. And I'm thinking what I can do is put doors on either side here. Actually, no, because it's an odd number, not an even number. If it was even, it would be easier. But because it's odd, it would be easier to do sliding doors, not rotating doors. And that's fair. I've had days like that too, where you just are angry at everything. And for no good reason either. Usually those days I go play a violent game like GTA or Unreal Tournament or something like that. All right, let's go ahead and start packing it in. We are basically finished with this thing. We have a bunch of stone to still eject, but eject it we shall. But we now have our central chamber for our hangar drilled out. It is beautiful. The only thing, though, is that I still need to do the ceiling. Again, Dots, totally understand it. Absolutely get where you're coming from. Wait, is that... That unknown signal is 123.45 kilometers away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gotta save that. I know it's silly, but we do silly around these parts. Yes, 1, 2, 3, porn, 4, 5. You heard me right. I didn't stutter. Here goes coffee all done. Okay, so it looks like I still have one more pass that I need to do, which is to finish off the ceiling. Maybe. Now, the only reason why I say maybe is because I might just leave it as the stone. I don't need to make this airtight. And I've always enjoyed the look of stone in bases. I think this is what I'm going to do. Yes, go ahead. Hmm. Hmm. So the plan is, once I get the floor put in, I'm going to have a tunnel, a short tunnel going that way, and a short tunnel going that way-ish. And then a tunnel going roughly that way. each one of the two side ones are going to extend and have additional vehicle bays coming out. So essentially, I'll have the central area, and then coming out the sides, each side will then have vehicle bays coming off the sort of front and back of it. So that way I can have multiple vehicles parked in here without any issue, and they will be safe and unharmed. The only direction that might be a little iffy is this one, only because of how close that is to the edge of the mountain here. I will eventually get to that point, but the first thing is I've also still got to plan it out, and I have to figure out where I'm going to put the entrances for those tunnels. So once I get that in place, then I can go ahead and start actually like digging out stuff and building it. Plus, I want to go ahead and figure out how big the bays are going to be as well. So there's a lot of initial planning that's going to go into it. Because the bays themselves don't necessarily need to be this big. Yes, I do currently have a center point, but I still need to put the floor in. And then once the floor is in, I then need to figure out how wide the halls are going to be, the tunnels are going to be. And then from there, I need to figure out how big the bays are going to be off of the tunnels, off of the side tunnels. So there's still some work involved for the rest of the base. But one of the big things that I need to do is also to go ahead and... oh yeah, let's change your displacement. Back to 0. I still want to go ahead and I think drill out a little bit of the roof. No. Why would I do that? Like, copying it to creative and testing it out that way just kind of wastes time for what I want to do. Like, I already know. Okay, let's put it this way. I have a mental image of what I'm wanting to do. So I already kind of have the design in mind. But the design is based off of also what will work within my limitations in the game. So while I have the design, I also, as I'm working, tweak that design. So I don't need to go into creative to test it. I don't need to, like, I can already visualize it. Like, I went to art school for 3D art and animation, and I've been doing this sort of stuff since I was in high school. So that's not a problem. I thank you for the suggestion, but it's not a situation where I'm having troubles visualizing it. I can visualize it. It's simply a matter of what I'm visualizing requires also measuring it out and making sure that I have a more concrete understanding of what I'm going to be working on. And I just like working on it like this, you know? If I go into it and I already know exactly everything I'm going to be doing, it loses some of that magic. It loses a little bit of that spontaneity, that in the moment. So this way, I keep some of that magic, that excitement of will it or won't it work? No, whoops. Yep, I knew that was going to happen. I realized it as soon as I painted that last block. Okay. Let's bring these all the way up for now. Except for that one. I'm going to leave that in place because I'm not quite done with it yet. Because again, I still need to do the roof. But I'm not sure how I'm going to do the roof yet. So that's why I'm going to leave it there. And we are still emptying stone. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to take quick AFK. I'm going to go refill my water. And then maybe grab a snack while I'm at it. Ooh, we've got leftovers from last night. I know some of you may not like tuna fish. But my mom and I made some tuna fish casserole. So delicious. So, so good. There we go. So I will be back in just a few. Alrighty, that was delicious. Quick bowl of leftover tuna fish casserole, lightly nuked, salt added, shoveled down my face hole. Good stuff. Good God. Just watching the boulders roll down the hill. How much more stone am I going through is the question. Good God. Stone. 150, 16. Okay, good. We're getting to the tail end of it. Because I really don't need that much. All right. What I do need, however, is, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops. 9, 10, and 11, which will make that technically 33. And that is not quite the middle. Oh, now that's interesting. Oh, wait, nope. That is correct, actually. Yep, okay. So that goes there. And yeah, okay. So that is essentially where our middle is at, is right here. And what I would want to do is probably actually go outwards from this spot. Yeah. So I'm not sure how I would do that yet. But that's okay. I don't necessarily need to know everything. I just need to know most things. Okay. What time is it? 2.5 hours. Okay. Good Lord. Although, honestly, flipping rovers is like an everyday occurrence for some people. I mean, I never flip my rover because I'm not bad at the game. Like, I don't suck. Like, I could totally play Dark Souls blindfolded, naked, in a dark room without touching the controller and completely beat it with never, ever getting hit. I'm that good at video games. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. What, you don't believe me? How dare you be correct in not believing me? But that aside, what I typically try and do for a rover that I know is going to flip frequently is that I go ahead and I put a cargo container that's separated from the rest of the cargo containers on the rover that specifically has enough parts in it for anywhere between 2 to 3 pistons and potentially a mag plate. So that way, in case I do flip it, it's a little bit easier to try and flip it back over. God damn. I'm getting real tired of having lungs right now. All right, what I need to do here is let's grab our camps and turn them off. Gotcha. Run this all the way down. Actually, what am I doing? Don't be an idiot, Cruz. Turn those back on. I can just spray paint these down. There we go. All right. And then I should have... No, I don't. Okay. Of course. While I was up in AFK, didn't need to use the restroom. As soon as I sit down... Yeah, about that, buddy. Okay. There we go. Now, 1, 2. Let's do it this way. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So if I do... Two, 3, 4. I think I can do an edge here. Yeah, that'll be good. All right, Spectre, have a good one, buddy. Always good to see you. Do stay out of trouble, or don't. I don't care. Okay, so what this allows me to do, actually, let's get rid of you. All right, let's see, there we go. Because I can run these all the way down here. Like that. Oh, that's why it looks wrong. Okay. Now I was about to be like, oh God, I got it wrong. The entire thing is ruined. But no, we're fine. It's just because I have that edge right there. Okay. All right. Yeah. Be right back again. Okay. Just what is it about being in the bathroom that causes you to just have ideas for stuff? So I was thinking on what Dots was talking about that other um, content creator about the different types of ships. And one of the type of ships that was missing from that was the geometric. Ones that are just basic geometric designs. Like a Borg cube or a Borg sphere, or even just a pyramid. And I was starting to think about how you could easily do a Borg cube with regenerative armor using something like build and repair or camp. And you could quite easily put your thrusters on the inside of the ship around the central core and have plenty of room between them and the armor blocks. And then have it so that you've got a projector that is constantly projecting the shell of the ship, and have camp constantly repairing that armor as it takes damage. And especially if it's heavy armor. Technically, yes, it is possible to call a new pod. So the drawback to that is, though, that you have to kill yourself. But essentially what you would do is you grind down the survival kit to the point where it's damaged, then go ahead and respawn by holding backspace. And that will essentially allow you to go ahead and respawn. Now, what you can do, because you will generally respawn fairly close to that location, sometimes, is to go ahead and put down a GPS marker at where your current pod is at. Go ahead and grind down your survival kit, go ahead and respawn, and with the new respawn pod, go back to the old one. Or at least to that old location. So if there was anything that you wanted to keep from it, you could potentially like build yourself a small little platform real quick. And, you know, if you have enough parts, put a cargo container on there or something like that and just shove stuff in there. And then work your way back. In fact, I kind of had to do something similar. That's why I've got this escape pod here. So when I first started this save and I was streaming it, I got attacked and I got killed. And because my survival kit had been out here exposed, it got hit. And so I couldn't respawn back at the base. So I had to respawn in a new pod, and it put me out there a ways. So I eventually made my way back, and here we are again. So yeah, if you're not that deep into it and you're not currently attached with where you're at and what you have, then yeah, just go ahead and respawn. Let's get rid of this. Stick one of you in here. There we go. I think it's time to trim the mustache. 1, 2, 3. Boom. There we go. Then put you there. That one there and there. Cool. Oh no. And then finally, there. Awesome. So the good news is we are starting to get our sort of what would I call that? Sort of hub, if you will, for our hangar put together. I think it's actually going to look pretty awesome once I get it finished. But it also starts to tell us where our center points are going to be for cutting into the wall. Now, what I'm going to want to do is probably figure out via GPS where the top of the mountain is over this and how deep I can actually sort of cut into the mountain before potentially popping out the top. Now, there's a couple of different ways that I can do that. I can do that with GPS markers, which works just fine. I could also go ahead and kind of design out how big the tunnel's going to be with blocks in terms of like come out here, build that all out with scaffolding, make it into a blueprint, and then project it into the wall to where it's going to start. Oh, awesome. Good to hear. And you're welcome. Now, I know this way I should be fine because that area is much deeper into the rock than over here. And did we finally finish all of the stone? We did! How far down here did it? Ah, there goes a whole bunch of the stone that hasn't evaporated yet. Awesome. Plus, there's a whole bunch that's going to be inside of puncture. I just knows it. Or is there? Actually, it may have gotten the stuff out of puncture. And it did. Awesome. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a break from this for now, while I kind of figure out where I'm going to go with that. And we're going to jump over. I don't know. We're going to jump over to some Dune Awakening for a little bit. Kind of wind this up with that. So for those of you who are here for Space Engineers, cool. I'll be back tomorrow with it. We still got plenty of work to do on the pace. For those of you who are going to be sticking around, awesome. As I switch over to Dune Awakening. Dune Awakening. Not modded. There we go. Okay, let's get this started up. So one of the things that I've been working on, okay, quick history recap. Started out on public servers. A week ago-ish, little over a week ago, we decided to try out private server. We had one. There we go. It's And there we go. Jesus. Oh, I'm getting ready to throw a fucking shit fit here. I swear to Christ. Okay. All right. To answer your question, yes, it does kind of have a story mode. It should be working now because it's working on my side. At least it was. Yeah. Anyway. Yes, it does have a story mode. Let's get started here. Yeah, it was. I don't know why it's having problems. I did a full system reboot earlier, so it shouldn't have any issues. For whatever reason, the software for Razer and Windows 11 do not get along. It shouldn't have a delay. If it does, it should be very small. But anyway, yes, there is a sort of storyline that you can follow, a set of missions that you can play through. And it is pretty good. It is an interesting story, and it does have a lot of interesting sort of directions that the story goes in with really cool reveals. Make sure I have my ornithopter. I do. Awesome. Okay. So I primarily need... And of course, now I can't hear my own in-game audio. What the fuck is happening? Okay. Settings. Audio. Output. Controller game. Okay. Nope, still can't. What? Okay. This is irritating. I am about to lose my shit. Properties, that's correct. All right, let's do this. Okay. Nope, not hearing that. I'm just not allowed to have a good time today. Every time I try and switch to something else. Sound system, cool. I know you guys can hear it. I can't. There was nothing coming through from the game at all. I had no audio. I initially did when the game first starts up. The problem is when Funcom does not have a default device option in the sound settings. Every other game that I have Okay. Keeps breaking. Properties. Oh, there it goes. There. I am so tired of this. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why it keeps breaking. Every time I start up Dune, it immediately breaks my audio. I don't know if that's them or if it's me.